G'day guys, and welcome back to Karate Over Coffee. Thanks for jumping on and listening. I've got a special guest up next, Ray Morcomb. He is the world's first para karate world champion. So we go through his struggles as a legally blind karateka, as well as the issues with the World Karate Federation and the politics in that, and also with a little bit into the Australian Karate Federation as well. Probably didn't delve deep enough into those parts. So when you're listening to him, he's probably only going through the surface level of how he feels and the treatment that he got. So he's more than happy to chat to anybody about it. Make sure if you want more information, just shoot him a message. He's on the Facebook. But otherwise, sit back and enjoy. And if you have any questions, please let me know. We'll put it in our Facebook community group. Thanks, guys. Hi, and welcome to Karate Over Coffee. My name is Cheyne McMahon, and I'm your host. This is a podcast dedicated to my experiences in karate. I started karate as soon as I could walk. My parents owned a full-time dojo, so I literally grew up in the dojo as our house was on top. I've lived and breathed karate my whole life, and I've trained with some really amazing sensei, competed for my country, and I've learned so much about the evolution and history of karate. And I'm here to share my experiences and learn. Enjoy. G'day guys, and welcome back to Karate Over Coffee. I'm Cheyne McMahon, and I've got today a special guest, Ray Morcomb. Welcome aboard, Ray.
G'day Shane, how you going, mate?
Good, mate. Good. Before we get into it, what coffee you got there, buddy?
Something the wife just put together. I'm a bit fussy. I get my lattes up the road, but in this lockdown at the moment, beggars can't be choosers. So I got out of bed.
Not even open.
It is, but it's getting harder to get up there and get about at the moment. So the jail time's getting tighter.
Well, it's so crazy just from that. Like they don't want us to do any shopping, but everything is open. So
yeah, I know. Yeah. We're designated now to only one person can go out. So my wife's a radiographer, so she's still working. So yeah, she's basically doing all of the out of the house stuff, activities, work, and shopping and that. So
you're full-time dad at home now.
Yeah, I'm a school teacher now. I never wanted to be a school teacher, and it's not something I'm thinking about pursuing afterwards either.
Yeah. Well,
so a whole new appreciation for school teachers.
Yeah, exactly, mate. My wife is a scientist, so she's an essential worker apparently, and so yeah, I'm the same. Got to stay home, look after the son, and still teach rugby and still run the business. And
it's tough. It is tough times. Your son's about the same age as my little boy, isn't he?
Yep, 7.
7. Oh well, we're speaking the same language.
Oh yeah, like just on the go the whole time.
Yeah, very hard. So luckily we got the dog.
yeah, we've got a dog too. Exactly, they're best mates. Yeah. So for those who don't know Ray, why don't you give us a brief intro there, Ray?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm in Sydney, and I started karate when I was 8 years old. So, and I'm 40. I turned 41 on Sunday. So, I've been doing karate for over 30 years, and started my own little dojo back in 1999, where I live in Sydney, in a place called Thornlea. Then opened up in Pennant Hills as well. And yeah, just pretty typical kind of karate journey, I guess. Been training along and competing. Competitions taken me all over Australia, New Zealand, and throughout the world. Background was in kind of traditional Shotokan, through the JKA, and then started doing, AKF competitions and that. I didn't really start all of that until I was probably in my mid to late 20s. As you and I have discussed, like a lot of the interesting politics with karate, and from the traditional side of it, we weren't allowed, believe it or not. So it was kind of like we had to just, when we were kids, we were in the JKA was quite standalone.
Yeah.
And we didn't know any better. You don't know anything when you're in your dojo. You only know what your sensei is telling you to do. So if they tell you, this is a block, then you just do that. So,
But Ray,
but
you've got to understand, mate. There is no politics or egos in karate.
no, zero. I've been looking,
Absolutely.
can't find any.
We're all humble servants, mate.
Until I walk past the mirror, I start arguing with myself.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but yeah, so and then yeah, got into, like I was competing in that, but I've always primarily been focused on training. Got into boxing at about the age of 15. My younger brother Kelly, he's always practiced karate as well. He started boxing also, and he went on and was pretty handy as an amateur boxer, like was state champion and so forth. But I couldn't fight, unfortunately, due to my vision. So my eyesight, I tried with like 2 associations with the ABA back in those days in the ABL, and I it was really quite frustrating for me because I love boxing. I love it to death, and I was actually sparring a lot. I was even sparring with a few pros back when I was 18, 19, 20, and I was handy. I think that I actually felt like I was doing better with the boxing than I was with, say, kumite, because there's less weapons.
Yeah.
I didn't really have to
range.
Closer range. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it was harder in the fact that I was getting hit, but I didn't have to worry about kicks, so I could. And also, you got quite big gloves. So, but anyway, look, long story cut short, I got knocked back by the doctors, and then kind of continued on with karate and so forth, and my boxing, and then I stumbled across into the disability karate that the WKF had on offer. So throughout my life, I've never done any disabled sport at all, which is a kind of a big mistake that I made as a young guy, because when I was as a teenager, I had been offered to do judo, and a lot of people had kind of what's the word, like scouted me, I guess, through my karate, because I had a scholarship for athletes with a disability through Sydney Academy of Sport and New South Wales Institute of Sport. So I was training as like an elite athlete through those programs, which were pretty awesome, leading into 2000 Olympics, because the government was throwing a lot of money around.
Oh, yeah. We all thought we were going to get in, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. Exactly.
I remember being, sort of 17, 18, and everybody thought that karate was going to be the 2000 Olympics. And
yeah, exactly.
It was huge.
Well, that's right. And I was doing karate, and a lot of the coaches and the sports science that we had made available were kind of like, you're not doing an Olympic or Paralympic sport. I was like, yeah, I know, but karate is going to eventually get there. You got to remember, I was saying this is 20 years ago. I was saying that, and obviously it was, decades before that. I even speak to people that were really hopeful back in the 80s. So they were like, well, look, why don't you do judo? And just being young and immature, I guess, I don't know. Like, I was like, it was almost an insult. I was like, I do karate. Like, I do karate.
Yeah.
And they were like, look, mate, judo's a Paralympic sport. It's very well established. We've got a lot of great programs, even scholarships put in place. But the karate, there's nothing there for us to. And I was very stubborn and very, like, not even stubborn. I was just completely single-minded. Like, I do karate. Like, I'm a karate guy. That's I've been doing it since I was 8. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to do judo. And I was like, you don't even kick or punch in judo. I was just like, I was kind of like, what the hell? And my dad was really supportive of me doing judo. And it's one of my big regrets, because I think that it would have been such a great thing for me to do. And but that's life, and the karate journey took me on other directions.
Yeah, well, why don't you expand a little bit? I know your disability. Maybe not everybody does, especially if they're listening. I mean, even looking at you, you can't tell what your disability is.
Yeah, so I was born visually impaired, so it's a genetic issue or something you call it in the family. Just got really lucky, Shane. But yeah, so I have what's called ocular albinism. So I have like pretty bad stigmatism and turns in my eyes, which kind of affects the peripheral vision. But I'm also quite short-sighted. So kind of hard to explain in some ways. I don't drive a car. Obviously, can't drive a car. I have a great deal of difficulties. Like even now.
Is it both eyes?
Both eyes, yeah.
Yep.
So my right eye is actually a little bit stronger, but it's lazy. So my left eye is my more dominant one. It's also, I don't do it as much now, but as a kid, you could see like me. I always had like a turn in my head where I was always like favoring an eye, and I suppose you do get something that a lot of people don't understand is that like they said I'm almost 41, so I've got more years of experience being visually impaired than I ever do karate, and I do it every day. So you do get very good at working around it and learning it. So, but yeah, I struggle a lot with, anything that's written or reading. School was like basically school for me was just socializing and getting in fights at lunchtime.
And playing footy and...
Yeah, like it's just I didn't do anything in the classroom. It was just everything back in those days was on the blackboard. School was just a write-off. I mean, I wasn't even really reading and writing all that well until I met my wife when I was 20. So I mean, I could read and write, but it was pretty poor. It was very, very poor. So I kind of felt like at school I felt about 3 years behind. So I kind of felt like, when I was in, maybe, year 10, I left at the end of year 10. And, I kind of probably was about the equivalent of say a year 6, year 7 kid, something like that. So
there wasn't any government support or school support or?
Mate, I went to just a public school, and I believe it's got a lot better now, but Mum and Dad were working full time, and they did the best they could. But when you're working full time, and I really just needed, like in hindsight, if I was looking after a kid like myself now, I definitely needed a lot of extra help. So probably needed a lot of tutoring and a lot of things. But it just all fell by the wayside, and you kind of fall further and further behind. And it's just the way it was back then. Like I grew up in the schooling was kind of the mid to late 80s, and the disability support, it just wasn't it just wasn't good enough, so. And I think another issue that I've had my entire life, which is probably hard for a lot of people to understand, but there's a lot of, when you have disabilities, you have people, not just visually, obviously you've got a whole host of disabilities, but you might have some person, they might have a hand missing, or an arm missing, but then you got other people that have got more than one limb missing, and so the severity of disabilities is very, very broad. And unfortunately for me, like one of the doctors said to my parents when I was like a baby, pretty much, they said the way to describe young Ray is that he's the best of a bad bunch, and they said that you're going to have a lot of difficulties when he's growing up trying to explain to people, because he's going to seem quite normal in walking around and all of this. But so it's kind of been like, in many ways, if I was completely blind and I had a cane and the dog, I'm not going to say that would be easier. And I'm extremely thankful for the eyesight that I have. But from a support point of view, it is a lot easier. People see somebody with a guide dog and they're just like, oh, okay, like, you understand, you're kind of like, right, that person's blind, they've got the dog, and they obviously can't see anything. But with my vision, people just don't know what I can and can't see. And that's obviously, it's not it's nobody's fault. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people just don't know what I can do. And I've had a difficult time with karate to some degree, because people are extremely judgmental, and they're extremely
karate,
judgmental.
Mate.
Not in karate, no. But people can be extremely judgmental, but with no education, like with zero understanding. And like when they see me performing kata or also kumite, because I do kumite, people are kind of like, well, he's fighting, and he goes okay. But then again, they don't realize that through failing school, I've really got no formal education behind me. My dad and the whole karate journey was through being bullied.
Yep.
So I was failing everything at school, and then I was being, pretty badly bullied at school. So we did karate. Karate wasn't about anything for me except for learning how to fight.
Yep.
That's my karate. It was almost like out of an old school book. It was like, do karate to learn how to fight so I could fight at school. That's literally my background. So I was fighting at school, and the karate training that I was doing at the dojo, when I was going to karate as an 8-year-old boy, I was training in a completely different mindset to a lot of the other children who were there to, enjoy karate and get belts. I was literally, it's kind of sad on reflection, but I was training karate, learning how to do a punch or a kick or whatever, so I could get that to school to fight these kids.
Yeah, people bullying you.
Yeah. So, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that the accidental byproduct or the accidental genius of that was I was training karate extremely hard. So when people were seeing me do karate like kata or kumite, and I was in my, say, 20s or 30s, they were looking at a product that they didn't realize how much had gone into it, because there was no school, there was no trade, there was no university. I wasn't working a 9-to-5 job. I was literally, eat, breathe, sleep karate. That's all I was doing, plus boxing. So a lot of people were kind of like, well, he can look at him fight, look what he's doing. But people didn't realize that I wasn't seeing very much at all. So yeah, it's interesting. It's great to kind of talk to somebody like you, that I obviously follow your karate journey and, have a lot of respect. So being able to talk to someone like you can help.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of things in common. Like, it's my birthday next week.
Yeah, right.
and I turn 40.
Yeah, cool.
Not 41, so like you, mate. I'm still young.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't have any grays in my hair.
Oh, mate, I do. I think it all come from the lockdown last year.
Yeah. With a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
For me, it's you're saying a lot of the similar things, because my eyesight is quite poor, and every time I went to an optometrist, they would look at my eyes and say, well, that's the worst I've ever seen. So, like, oh, thanks very much. The same, like at school, I couldn't see the whiteboard or the blackboard. I struggled. People bullied me as well. Luckily, I was already doing karate. I had no choice through my dad, but
Yep.
And even, like, obviously yours is much worse than mine. I'm not trying to compare mine to yours, but even when I wore contact lenses and fought, I'm still 10 octaves behind everybody else.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
It's the balance that people don't really understand of not being able to judge where your feet are as naturally as everybody else, and the distance, striking and those sorts of things, and people have no idea, because you look relatively normal.
Yes. Yeah.
And even as a kid, or I'd have to wear glasses to school. People would bully me, and that's why I got to start wearing contact lenses and whatnot. But so people judge you even now as an adult. I'm sure people would still judge you about the para karate world championships.
Yeah.
Look, do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, look, it's like I said, it's an ongoing thing, and actually, it's kind of good that you have been in, you're in that situation where you've experienced it yourself, and especially from a kid, because it is a different thing. It changes your childhood growing up, and
yeah, totally.
What's been really difficult for me is that, like, I've spent my entire life hiding my disability. Now that I'm, now that I'm older, because like I said, I was at school being bullied. I used to wear a hat. My dad played cricket, and I had this, like, I actually, it's really weird the things you do as a kid. I didn't even know that I was actually doing it. Believe it or not, it was like a subconscious thing. But I had this hat, and I'd always have the hat like completely covered over my face. Like, you'd just see my my mouth basically.
Yeah.
And what I did was I was covering my eyes from the kids because I thought to myself, if I can cover my eyes, then I won't get seen. I'll be able to just kind of like blend into the crowd. So my whole mindset was just to try and assimilate, blend in, to not get bullied, because every time I saw a new kid or an older kid or someone, and then they just like, my eyes just stood out. So I spent my whole life like running away from it. And when I was in karate, and because karate is such a strong, kind of, you're competing, there's a lot of ego and all that. Like I wasn't walking around the court, like, going up to a guy like you going, "Oh, g'day, mate. I'm Ray. I'm visually impaired. I'm actually legally blind. I can't see too well. Just thought I'd let you know." Like, it's ridiculous. I didn't want any competitor or anybody to know that I had an eyesight problem.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't want, like, I would have been like humiliated had anybody have known, "Oh, look, that guy's got an eyesight problem. We better take it a bit easier on him." Like I literally wanted to fight. Like I was very, as a result of, my kind of upbringing, I was very aggressive and angry, and so yeah.
On the other side of that, you don't want people to go, "Gee, he's a good fighter for a blind guy."
All the time. I've heard that a lot, and I mean, look, people joke too. Like, and I actually enjoy having a joke, and I have no problems, taking the piss out of myself and having a joke about it all. And that's part of being Aussie. We don't take ourselves too seriously. Yeah, absolutely. And I found that
not all of us, but yeah, most of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I found that kind of having a laugh about it has helped break down the barriers a bit with my eyesight and help with people understanding it, which is cool. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. And then like with the para karate, I kind of found, like, I was on a WKF website many years ago, and I was actually looking up information about Premier Leagues and so forth, and just kind of checking it all out and that. And there was a banner on the WKF official website that said disability karate or something along those lines, and it had the person in a wheelchair, and I clicked on it because I have an interest in disability sport. When I had my scholarship as a teenager with the Academy of Sport and New South Wales Institute of Sport, a really, really great guy called Dr. Aaron Murphy, he was my coach. He was actually one of the coaches for the Sydney Swans, and he devoted a lot of spare time to helping disabled athletes like myself. And he kind of brought me on board, and I had a little little part-time job with him, helping him in the gym with disabled athletes. And I got to work with some amputee athletes, swimmers, and I kind of worked and trained with a few people with intellectual handicaps in track and field. And I learned a stack. It was really, really cool. And working with disabled athletes was really insightful, and it made me feel a lot less sorry for myself. I was kind of like, man, these guys and girls here are, some of the athletes with CP and that were just, I had so much admiration for their courage, and it was really cool. And so when I saw the disabled karate thing, my initial thought wasn't, "Oh, I'm going to jump in this." It was more like, cool.
What's this?
Yeah, I kind of thought, cool, that they're finally doing something for disability karate, because, like I said, judo was an option back when I was younger, and karate never existed. When I got onto it, it said intellectual handicap, wheelchair, blind, and visually impaired. And I was like, whoa, okay, cool. I'm visually impaired. So actually, my dad's like your dad. My dad's not a karate guy. He's a cricket and footy kind of guy. And but my dad's probably my sensei more than anybody else, in my life.
That's the dad's role. Yep.
That's the dad's role. Yeah, he's the big boss. And my dad just all of my karate, 99% of my karate's come through my dad, really. And I spoke to my dad, and I was kind of like, what do you think? Should I do this or check it out? And he's like, look, if they're doing it and there's an opportunity for you to do it, he said, one, why wouldn't you jump on board? And he said, two, if you kind of sit back and you don't support it, if people don't stand up now and support it, it's not going to go anywhere. They're going to be like, well, it's almost like if we had a big disability karate movement in Australia, nobody's doing it. No one, like some guy, oh, no, I'm not going to jump in that for what. And see, disabled people too are, a lot of people don't understand, disabled people are shy by nature around their disability. So they're not usually, I've met a lot of guys that are in wheelchairs and things like that. And if you were kind of like, oh, we can come up and you can do a demonstration and you can get out there in front of all these people and talk about how you're in a wheelchair, that's like the worst day on earth for them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So especially the younger ones, it gets different as you get a bit more mature. So at that point I was almost 30 and, my wife supports me with everything. She's just the best. And my brother at the time was living in the UK and teaching. My brother's a school teacher. And he was living in Essex, and I wanted to go visit him anyway. So this competition that was on was like an international competition in Germany. Can't remember where it was now. Anyway, I went over to England and I trained some karate in London with some pretty cool people and got prepared. And I went over and I thought, I've got no idea what this is even going to be. Look, like when I reached out to the AKF at the time, and I'm not really saying this in like having a go or being negative. I'm just calling a spade, basically. Yep. There was really, they were like, we don't know what it is. We've never heard of it. I'm like, well, if you look on the website, you'll know as much as I do.
Yeah.
I didn't get any support. I basically I reached out to them and said, this is what I'd like to do. And they said, look, you need to be endorsed. You can't just go and compete. You've got to be endorsed. So I'm kind of like, what does that mean? Like, why can't I compete?
Luckily, there's no politics in karate, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So they did endorse me. They contacted me back. They endorsed me and they said, you need an Australian tracksuit, an Australian shirt, an Australian bag. It cost me an extra $500.
So you had to buy it.
It cost me an extra $500 to have the privilege of being endorsed. Plus I paid for everything. And not only that, I just kind of felt like that was step one. It's funny how people want to know what went wrong. How come Ray's so upset? But those initial steps set up, it's like going to your dojo. When a kid in a family goes to your dojo, that initial meet and greet will change their destiny, and so anyway, I went over and I was like, okay, well, that was great. Like they approved me. And I was like, yeah, cheers, thank you. That was really appreciated. So I went over and I had no coach, no nothing, which I didn't expect. My wife acted as my coach. And I went over with my brother and I thought, I've got no idea what I'm getting into here, got not a clue. So we went to this place.
So you actually competing?
Yeah, went to Germany. Yeah, so
in the disabled category.
Disabled category, yeah.
Yep.
So
visually impaired.
There was no other category. The whole competition was disabled, and it was brand new.
Yep.
So when I got there, I was met by people from the German kind of karate federation, the WKF, and look, that they were ridiculous. They were like overwhelmingly appreciative and supportive. And when I got to the competition, it was so big. They'd organize in Germany all of the local clubs to come and as spectators. It was massive. And the WKF president was there, the WKF vice president was there, and the vice president of the IOC was there as well. So I was like,
this is making sense. Yep.
I was like, whoa, this is different. The competition was a mess. It was brand new day one. They had collected, but literally just like scooped together disabled people, and there was quite a lot of wheelchair kata athletes, some intellectual handicap. There's one guy from Germany. I can't remember his name now off the top of my head, which is disappointing. He's a really nice guy. He's like the guy that was one of the absolute first through the Germany that started it all. And I've got a good friendship with him and his mum, and we see each other at international events and that. And so I met this initial, like you had to be there, Cheyne. It was kind of something you had to be there to see. There was this brand new bunch of karate people, mostly with their mums or dads and husbands or wives. And because you got to remember, disabled people require that extra amount of, it's huge. So it was a really feel good thing. And then when I got to do the competition, I mean, like I won my event, but it was I was just kind of like, wow, what am I in here? And I really felt I felt very, very self-conscious, almost embarrassed. Like I was like, well, this is there's nobody here that is of my vision level. They were much worse. And they tried to
imposter?
No, I just felt like I didn't know where to place myself because it's a competition. It's a sport. I'm trying to beat you. But you're turning up with a guide dog. And I'm like, well, Shane's got a guide dog. Like I felt a lot more like I felt really proud of you. And I felt like, wow, this is really cool. I didn't feel any, I didn't want to beat you at all. I didn't want to win. I just wanted to, I really, when I walked away from it, I felt a really strong urge of, I really want to be a part of this and I want to help support. I really thought this is pretty magic, and I've got some amazing photos from the day and so forth. When I met the president, Antonio and, the IOC and Wolfgang was the vice president at the time, that they basically dived on me. And they were like, we are so happy to meet you. And your karate is, obviously amazing. And I did unsu on that day. And my unsu, to be honest, was pretty average because I felt very uncomfortable and I didn't really feel like overly performing. And they just said, look, can you help us? Can you support us? We want to support you. And I was like, look, I'd love to. I just said, I think this is going to be really special. And it just felt like such a special thing. And it just hasn't ended that way. It's just ended in such a disappointing, kind of hurtful state, which is the journey that it kind of took me on. After that, they said to me, like, could you go to Paris 2012? There's going to be a demonstration event for disabled athletes in Paris. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And when I got home to Australia, I continued on with my AKF and all that, competing, and I was doing kumite and so forth. And I mean, look, when the photos come onto the WKF website of me with the president and all of that, then yeah, sure, there was a little bit more attention. And, I had a few guys contacted me. At that point in time, Ian Baskin was extremely supportive. He was like on board and he was helping me to get things happen. And like, don't get me wrong, there were things that, people were doing to support me at that stage. But then, it just kind of all got lost. And a lot of that got lost with, the things that we're discussing today. People not understanding my vision, not coming up and speaking to me, not doing their own research and education on disabled athletes, all of the things that they really should have been doing, they strongly failed to do. So I went to Paris. They had a few more competitors. There was one guy from, he's not from Estonia. He's from some country like that, some European country. He does kata. He was doing kata in Paris in a team kata event in the able-bodied.
Yep.
And his vision is very close to mine. I've met him a couple of times and his English is so, but he was like, yeah, I can drive and so forth and that. So I had a few competitors. There was one guy from Japan who's like almost completely blind, Yasushi Oba. And he's pretty awesome. He actually won the last world championships for para karate.
Okay.
So I won that event. And then when I come off the court, WKF official just jumped on myself and my wife and said, the president agrees you're going to do a demonstration. And I was like, I literally just come off the court and was still like sweating. And, I was like, oh, and then like this Bercy Stadium was huge. It was massive.
Yeah.
And she kind of vanished and we just kind of walked off. And the coaches that were there at the time for Australia, they were kind of good. like, again, for them, it was all very new. And I was just kind of like you've got the Australian team and the Aussie team had been selected, but I was kind of this like attachment. So the team themselves, the team members were great. But I could feel like even with the coaches, they were kind of like, not in a way that I felt like they disrespected me at all, not at all, but they were kind of like, okay, now we've got the team and we've got this disabled dude. Like, okay, cool. Like, I was really just thrown on board. I trained with the team and that was all great. And I made some awesome friendships within that as well. And the team was super supportive. But I guess the coaches, in their defense, they hadn't had any prep or any, they were just doing the best that they could, you know what I mean? And so it was hard on everybody in that respect. So I spoke to the coaches and I said, they were like, yeah, well done, man. At that point in time, when I competed, the Aussie team stayed and supported me, but most of the stadium was empty.
Yeah.
Because it was just this kind of, demonstration. Yeah, demonstration event.
Yeah.
So I said to the coaches, look, some lady just said I'm going to do a demo, and they were kind of like, oh, okay. And like, it just even sounded ridiculous because this event it was colossal. Anyway, the next morning I got up and the coaches were kind of like, you're doing a demonstration on like the finals day. And I was like, yes, I thought that. And I was just like,
in Paris, in a world championship where there's like 20,000 people in that stadium. Yeah.
And it kind of hit me. And what they wanted to do was that event in Bercy was ridiculous. I mean, they had the live bands, the stadium. You felt like a rock star. And they had like, the TVs, there was about 6 TV channels that was going through from around France. But that was their really big showpiece to the IOC. So where I come in and what I wasn't aware of, this all kind of unfolded, was that the disability karate played a massive role in karate getting entered into the Olympics. Which has, for me, I'm very proud of, and that's terrific. But it's left a very bad taste in my mouth towards the end of it all.
Did you feel like you were being used?
Look, not initially. Initially, it was that real, that real like wine and dine mentality, and we're all here for you because and I just was like, this is great for me. This is really good for everybody, but it slowly unraveled and kind of showed its true colors, which has left me, people don't understand, because people look at it and go, oh geez, like Ray's upset about this, but they don't understand, as you would understand, that it's a lifetime of going through this type of stuff, and I think outside of mistreating children, using and abusing disabled people is pretty much as low as it gets.
Yeah.
You kind of got children, disabled, and then the elderly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, and again, from karate being so rich and forward in its respect others, respect and humility and kindness and all of this. Anyway, so I'm in Paris, and I go there, and they had put me. Ko Matsuhisa from Japan was going to have his last ever tournament, and he ended up getting the bronze medal. So my demonstration event was straight after Matsuhisa come off the court, and in between the final of Rafael Agaev and Luigi Busa, which ironically just fought in the Olympic final.
10 years later.
And 10 years later, and Busa actually won that match as well. So my kata match was in the middle of those two bouts. So literally it was like, don't go to the toilet, don't go into the canteen. Every seat in that stadium was at full capacity. And they strategically placed me in the center to do my Unsu demonstration. And, like there's little things a lot of people don't know. Like, for example, I was walked out to the court, and the guy that actually walked me out, he's from the British Karate Federation, a guy called Michael Billman, and he's pretty high up, Michael, in the WKF, especially as far as Europe goes, and even WKF as a whole. And look, Michael Billman has been such a great guy to me. Even now, he emailed me recently, and he's been awesome over the years, and throughout the UK, he kind of used me and was really trying to help elevate disabled karate and that. But like, I spoke to these guys beforehand. I said, like, I can get myself out to the court. Like I do kumite, and that was an ongoing thing. And that vision of me getting escorted out, a lot of people are like, well, hold on a second, I just fought that guy. Like I fought that guy at the last state titles or nationals or whatever. And what the WKF explained to me was, they were just like, oh, no. All the disabled people, you have to be escorted out for this event. It's part of our insurance with disabled people. And I'm like,
really?
Well, I'm like, this is just BS. But in the position I'm in my gi and belt. I'm at the WKF event. I'm about to walk out in front of, 18,000 people. And I'm about to, like, I was like, my mind was, I'm like, I'm not about to stand here and argue over the fine print of the insurance policy that you have to work with disabled people.
Yeah.
So that was an ongoing thing. And I actually feel like that was one thing that affected me quite a bit. And again, it's sad because people don't ask, and they don't, it's funny when people can accuse you or point the finger or whatever. I get really upset. I get angry because not only do they not know, they don't want to know. It suits them to be like, oh, I know Cheyne. His eyes are fine, right? You're like, do you know Cheyne? Have you spoke to him? Do you know the background? Do you understand what has had to happen? Like, like, as I said, disability, again, it's a little bit like, we work with a lot of kids with autism and so forth. And the spectrum of that is wide, so I did that. It was that experience in Paris was probably one of the best experiences of my entire life. I
remember watching it as well when it first came out, and then I watched it last week again. Spine tingling, mate. Absolutely spine tingling.
Look,
the performance, the reaction from the crowd. When he did the jump in unsu, the landing was a bit so-so, but I'm not. But it was unreal, unbelievable.
Yeah, look, it was just magic. It was hard to explain the feeling, behind that. And again, you got to remember that when I was over there, I just went over, and again, like all the Aussie athletes, you're paying for yourself. This whole disability road that I went down has been completely self-funded, as all the athletes have been over the years. And I got there and I did that demonstration event, and then that event that happened, the demonstration on my own, that happened within days. And it was just like, so it was this like thrown upon me, and I kind of walked out of there going, wow, that's just like the best thing that's ever happened to me, And there was a couple of athletes that had brought their Paralympic medals from London to come to Paris to watch the disabled event. And they didn't know the demo was going to be on afterwards. And I can't remember what events, what athletes they were from. It's a while ago now, but I got a photo of me with like one of the Paralympic gold medals, and the athletes wanted to meet me, and they said, mate, they were like, you're going to be the Paralympic champion. And it was really cool. And then again, I got to speak with the president and so forth, all the kind of the high end of the WKF. And they were just like, they were literally just thanking me over and over. And they just said, we really need your support to get this off the ground. And we really want to get you to the Paralympics and so on. And I'm like, wow, this is mind blowing. And this kind of feels like such a great thing to happen in my life. And, not that I felt like I deserved it, but I kind of felt like I've been through a lot of hard times to get to here, and
finally something's gone right for Ray.
Yeah. Like it felt like my dad always told me as a kid, like no matter how upset I got or no matter how down I was, and there was some really down periods when I was a kid, my dad always said, all you can do is turn a negative into a positive. And like my dad said that to me countless times, and actually used to annoy me, especially when I'm, getting upset, getting in fights at school, really, really like down and out, feeling sorry for myself. And my dad's like, turn your negative into a positive. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you got to be kidding me. Like there's no positive in this. This is just horrible.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm there and I'm thinking, my dad's words are in my head. I'm like, this is just so cool. But I really felt a strong sense of representing this disabled group of people. And I think a lot of people really missed the message with that. I think not a lot of people, I think some people thought that Ray thinks he's a world champion. Ray thinks he's Agaev, or I don't know. People have
Antonio
some funny.
Diaz.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and to me, like, we went on to Bremen 2014, and they had the first official WKF World Championships, and I won that. I was, fortunate enough to win it and represent the country, do something like that. I've won the only
Fully funded.
Yeah, well, I won that event and I actually got some compensation from the AKF. So
okay, great.
Because I got gold, I got compensation in that event. Then in 2016, I got silver. To that guy that I was telling you about from Europe, he won.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden when I got home, I think back then their policy was like you were meant to get a certain amount of money for gold, silver, and bronze, but I didn't get a cent for when I got silver. It was just so many things just started to kind of like filter down. And but like I said, from Bremen winning the Worlds, another big issue that I had was I love karate. I love trying to compete and improve myself, and I've got students and so forth. And so I've always traveled. I've always traveled to Japan. I've been working a lot with Sonari, people like Seb, Mitch, Barney Gill in New Zealand. And these are all like really good friends of mine. Come and stay at my house, and we train for like weeks on end. And I help the boys with all their stuff. And so when I was traveling a lot, I was doing a lot of work with Sonari. When I was preparing for the WKF World Championships for para karate, I spent all my time training kumite with Sonari. So I was there holding pads, holding bags, running at night with him, being his personal kick bag. Me, Sonari, John Georges training long hours. So all of my effort and energy went into karate, not into my own. Don't get me wrong, I was doing my karate in my own personal time, but I barely had any time to do that when I was teaching and helping the boys, predominantly helping Sonari to achieve his goals. So what I did was I went to the Premier Leagues with Sonari, and I thought to myself, well, I'll jump in and do my kata. I never had any success with the Premier Leagues. But I went to an event in Dubai after I'd won the World Championships and so forth, and they all, supposedly loved me and wanted me to support them. And, I had become the face of the para karate and yada, yada, yada. So I went to Dubai. They had an absolute shocker with the disability event over there. They put all of the disability people together, made some bogus point system. I got silver. And it was just, I thought, this is a schmozzle. They're not doing the right things here. Yeah. They're a long way. Like, this is the problem too, Shane. A lot of people can say, oh, well, they're doing their best. They're trying hard. It's very difficult. Yeah. Yes, that's all true. But if you're going to run a disabled event in Australia and you have a lot of people turn up, my goodness, you better know what you're doing.
What year was that?
You're testing me now. That was 2015, I think.
So karate hadn't been approved as yet to be in.
No. It might have been 2015. Actually, it might have been 2016. It might have been Dubai 2016. So anyway, I did that event, and in Dubai, there's like prize money in that. I think like the first prize, they were like, it might have been like 1,500. Second prize was 1,000. So I got silver. Never got a cent. Never got any money, never got nothing. It was just, I can't even describe it. It was very, it just felt like a circus. And anyway, so what I did was I was entering the Premier League, which was the next day. And I thought, look, I want to jump in, and because the Premier League is open.
Able-bodied.
You know,
yeah.
And also when I say open, anybody can compete. There was you didn't have to be
top 100 or whatever. Yeah.
Not at all. No, that changed once it was going to Olympic selection. Yeah. So I jumped in, and I went up against a guy from Azerbaijan, and not Agaev, some other guy. He was actually quite good. And I did Kunkudai in this round, and he did MP. And I kind of it was actually really disappointing in that card. I did a good card, and I remember really badly hitting the wall, like about halfway through, or and I thought, I just completely, like, the card was no good.
Your emotions are all over the place, mate.
Yeah, and I lost first round. And anyway, Robin Choi, Choi's been one of the best supporters and a great person that I've had behind all of this. Anyway, Robin was with me, and I was coming off the court, and I don't know the lady's name. It's probably best I don't know her name, but she's one of the big WKF referees. She was the tatami manager, and she was actually at the Olympic Games. She was one of the head referees at the Olympics. And as I was coming down the stairs, she literally dived on me, and she just absolutely blew me to pieces. She was just like, "You're in the disability category. You cannot compete in able-bodied." Just ripped shreds off me. And I mean, I'm there on the court with all the other men athletes, and I was like completely humiliated. It was just like my energy, like I just wanted to, it was like that whole fight or flight mechanism. And I wanted to just, like, I wanted to just, the worst thoughts possible. I was so upset. And I just basically just took a deep breath, and I just took it on. I was that upset. I can't tell you how upset I was. And
how humiliating.
It was the worst.
What was she thinking?
It was the worst moment I've ever had in karate. And Robin Choi come over and said to me what happened, and I told her, and she said, "Is that the rules?" I said, "Not to the best of my knowledge. There's no way. Like, I'm not doing kumite, and I have done, and they've always known that I've competed in Australia. I mean,
I've seen you fight.
Yeah. I mean, I've always done kumite, and always done able-bodied. I had, quite a bit of success with my kata, within the AKF. I think it was 2015, I got silver to James Giuliano at the Nationals final, So I see myself as a able-bodied competitor that was also doing the disability. So anyway, on that day, Michael Cassis was there, and he ended up putting a meeting together with the vice president of the WKF. I don't think the president was there. And also the president of the JKF was there. And we had this meeting, and the lady was there, the referee, and she was kind of made to apologize. There was no ruling on that at all. It just come out of the clear, out of nowhere. And I tell you what, that's the thing. You get this kind of these things. And for me, the main thing is yes, I'm upset, and yes, I'm angry, but I think a lot of people, they just don't understand how to deal and respect with people with disabilities.
Also, you've been labelled, like that for 30 years. And you don't need somebody to say it in front of everybody else.
Well, a lot of other things went really, like I said, it was really heartbreaking for me, because a lot of rumors started coming out about people talking about my vision, and then even within the WKF as well. And I think that without trying to have tickets on myself, I think that the level of my kata performance actually caused some of the questions. And again, people didn't realize that, I've been training in Japan since I was 9 years old. My dad and my mum, the amount of money that mum and dad put behind me and dedicated for me to get my karate to a high level. And I think that they're I actually believe in the end that they were kind of you don't look disabled enough. And I actually noticed that the WKF website started changing from all the photos of me and the information about me to, when I go to the WKF website now, I'm non-existent.
Mm.
I'm not on there. If you go onto don't quote me, but if you go onto the Australian Karate Federation, they're probably going to be doing this now. I don't think there's anything on me. There's nothing about me.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist. And a lot of rumors started spreading around about my eyesight. I started hearing all these rumors about the WKF and this and that. What hurts is that every single disability tournament I went into, I had to go and see an eyesight specialist every single time. I had to get a full test and analysis, like a field test of my vision. Had to have all like the eye drops in my eyes, and they got to look. I had to go through all of that to submit all of my official paperwork, like medical examination for every competition. The WKF and the AKF have all that information. Like they have all of it.
You've got to do it every time.
They've got everything. They know the whole lot. So when you start hearing rumors coming back about the severity of your vision, I'm like, how could you have it? But what I would say is I'd be willing to bet a lot of money. I don't reckon they've actually taken it any further than to go and see their own specialist. I just think that the whole thing is a bit of a circus. I don't think they've brought in the correct people from the disabled background, or even with the IPC or anything. I just think they've done it themselves. And I think that they've done a very, very substandard job.
Do you think the motivation was to tick off a box to get into the IOC Olympics?
100%. 100%. I feel like at some point in time, there's been a board meeting and they've sat down and they're pulling their hair out. What do we do to become Olympic? How do we become Olympic? And someone has gone, I don't even think it was a suggestion. I actually believe that, part of the criteria of being an Olympic sport is you need to be inclusive.
Yeah.
So you have to have, if you're swimming, you can't be swimming and be like, what about disabled swimming? Oh no, we don't do, our sport doesn't offer any avenue for people with disabled. Like we don't do disability swimming. If you don't have that as an avenue in swimming, you will not be in the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
So they quickly, got into a panic, and I think that they had this, opportunity fall from the sky, and that was me.
Yeah.
Where they've got it beautiful. This guy, boom, put him up. That's why I was the demonstration that day.
And look how good he is.
Look how good he is, and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of jealousy and a lot of just very, very people's poor ways got involved, and I think that's happened. That's kind of happened domestically as well. I think for sure it would have been he doesn't look disabled enough. 100%.
And the fact that you walk out by yourself. I mean, it's pandering.
It shows you how far behind the times we are. I mean, it's 2021, and when we talk about things with in the current times with things with racism or people being in what's it called, people not even understanding entitlement or with equality. Basically, people just don't understand, and so I had that incident happen in Dubai. I was back home in Australia. I got a phone call. Michael Cassis has been one of the better people in a roundabout way. Not great, but Michael Cassis rang me a couple of times personally when he was still acting as president
at the time.
Yeah. And so Michael, so Michael rang me one time out of the clear blue sky, and he said, "How you going? How's everything doing?" I was like, "Yeah, good." And how's training? Good. And he said, "Listen, I've got something big, something really big for you, something incredible." I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, wow. He said, this is gonna blow you away. I was like, okay. And he said, I've just got off the phone to the WKF, and the WKF have an athletes commission, which David Benatello is the from Italy. David Benatello is the he's not the president, but he's like he basically runs that athletes commission. He sees over it with all the major people that are involved. I believe the rule was
his daughter competed at the Olympics in Qatar.
I'm not sure. She might have. I might have missed
she
that.
won a bronze.
Yeah, did she? Yeah, right. I might have missed that. But so the Athletes Commission is like world champions. So you got Douglas Brose, Rio Cuna, Antonio Diaz. There's male and female. Christina Ma was in contention for it.
Yeah, the rock stars.
The rock stars, and their job is to oversee the karate from the athlete's point of view, the kind of grassroots level, to give the athletes a voice and to help shape the WKF as it moves forward. So Michael Cassis has said the WKF want you to be on this athletes commission to represent all of disabled people, and I was just like, wow, that's amazing.
That's great, yeah.
I've got a background, within Australia working a little bit with disabled people. I'm really interested in it. I've got a very sincere motivation, and I want to see this do well. I want to see this go Paralympic. I never thought it would be Paralympic in my time because I know what's involved to get it there. But I thought if they get me on board, and I'm quite outspoken, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to really do a good job. This is massive. So he said to me, will you accept it? I'm like, oh, of course. Like, just tell me what I've got to do. He said, okay, look, that's great. I'm really happy for you. I just needed to know that you wanted to take it on board. And I was like, great, tell me what to do. And he said, well, look, you're going to go to the WKF Worlds 2016, which is in Austria, in Linz. I need you now to touch base with David Benatello. I was like, okay, cool. So David Benatello and I were going back and forth, and he was like, this is terrific. It's going to be great. He goes, I've been following you and rah, rah, rah. I don't know what happened between those conversations and messages and me getting to Linz. When I got to Linz, there was a little bit of drama where they said, doctors are going to do a test on all the athletes there, even though we'd already submitted our paperwork. Now, I'd heard rumors about people saying things that really weren't nice about my vision. And I thought, okay, that's cool. I'm actually quite happy because I want to be tested, and I want people to see. Then I thought to myself, but then again, who the hell are they getting tested? Like, we're going in there cold. Like, you know what I mean? Like, anyway, all you can do is have faith in it. And I thought, obviously they're going to have doctors, proper people. I'm happy. I'll be happy for them to test my eyesight, and I can, finally get a little bit of respect and a little bit of recognition. Because like I said, I'm very comfortable at this age telling everybody about what I can and can't see. And if anyone's got any problems with me, you know where to find me, And so when I got there, I was like, I was a bit stressed about the testing. It's an intrusive type of thing, and people ask, So I told the coaches, and Ian Baskin was there and all this, and like, yeah, don't worry, we'll sort it out, rah, rah, rah. And I said, also, I'm going to be on this athletes commission. David Benatello wants to see me, and rah, rah, rah. Man, it was the most disappointing chain of events. First of all, I ran into David Benatello in a lift, and when he saw me, he was just like, you could see he just wanted to basically run. He's like, yes, I will catch up with you. I'll talk with you.
Yeah, right.
I never seen him ever again, and he's never ever contacted me since. Me and the coaches that were there was Steve Kelly. No, it was John Hatitas. John and Marco Mazzanti was there. Anyway, the coaches took me over for the testing. We get over to the registration area, and they're like, and we're walking around. Next thing, there's a lady from the WKF that I knew through the disability, and I'm like, oh, we're here to get tested. Oh, no, testing's off. We're not doing testing. No testing. And we were like, no, wait a second. No, we're not allowed to compete. We got all this information. Ian Baskin, we've had this information for months. I have to get my eyes so I can get categorized. Once I get categorized, no, it's cancelled. There is no testing. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So anyway, I go and compete. I get to the final, and the guy that I'd competed with previously, who I'd had conversations with, He's
Yep.
probably the only guy that's got similar eyesight. I lose the competition in the final, and he had been given a full additional extra point. So I've basically been scaled right down. If you're like blind, you get 3 points.
Yeah.
If you've got like really bad vision, 2 points. And if you've got like bad vision, 1 point, but I get 0 points because somebody in the WKF had determined that my eyesight wasn't bad enough without any medical.
No testing.
Nothing.
So did you find it? Did other people get tested, or was it just you that wasn't getting tested? Or
No, nobody got tested. Nobody got tested.
People just assumed that this person gets 2 points, this person gets 1 point.
The WKF just assumed that themselves. So, and when I lost the final, I was really sad in the fact that I didn't care about winning or losing. I wanted to win that event. I was really happy that he made the final, because when I made the final in Bremen, it was against a Japanese boy who's completely blind, and I didn't feel comfortable competing against him at all. I was allowed to repeat my katas, and Steve Kelly was with me, and Steve Kelly's been great. And Steve said, do Unsu again. You're allowed to do Unsu again in the crowd. And I said, no, I don't want to do Unsu. I'm going to do Sorchin. The reason I did Sorchin for was because I wanted to kind of bring myself down.
The same level, no jumps.
No jumps.
Yeah.
I just did not feel I didn't feel good about going out there to beat. I had I have so much respect for this guy and all the other.
You didn't want a wow factor. You just wanted like.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And then so when I got to Austria and this other guy, I don't remember the guy's name. When he made the final, I was like, great. Even if I lose, I don't care. I've now got one competitor, and me and this guy have got like very, very similar eyesight. And we've had conversations, so I know the guy quite well. And then I lost by this full point. I didn't know about the points. They never told us. I didn't even know I'd been scaled down. I had no idea. Then they did like they do awards, this most valuable player MVP award. I won that MVP award, and I was just like, I don't know, this is just not going well. Once I left that event, that was it. Like there was just I've had zero communication, no correspondence, no nothing, and the AKF just followed suit. And it's just been like, I went and competed in Spain in 2018, and I was scaled right down again. Yeah, and I had to submit all my medical stuff as well. When I got to Spain, I had virtually zero interaction with the WKF. Yeah. So I went from being like their little
poster boy.
Their little like superstar, to not being even talked to. And I just thought, this is just, to me, like, even the karate aside, again, just the way people get treated. I just thought this just sucks. This is just not the way people should be treated, and it's like the thing that bothers me too is that like the audience of the WKF, the athletes, the crowd, they responded so well. I mean, I have created so many friendships and like a massive karate network now through this para karate. Yeah. That's continued on. That's been awesome. But the actual para karate, and they got another guy. I don't know who the guy is, but he's in a wheelchair. So they got him onto the athletes commission. Okay. So they put him on. That's great. Nobody even had the respect to come and speak to me. They just changed. They just changed their mind.
That's awful. What you would have done though is inspired a lot of people. I mean, I even looked for myself to see if I would qualify, but I was, I think, two optics away.
Yeah, away from doing it.
Yeah, but then I realized I'd have to do kata, so I wasn't.
You could have fought me. I would have jumped.
I know, but it'd be. I'd have to take my contact lenses out, and then I think you'd have an advantage there.
Nah, no chance.
But you definitely would have inspired. What about, where do you think where is it at the moment? I mean, there's no
Look,
Paralympics.
I don't even know. I heard they're running it. They're running it this year in Dubai, which I'm not going to. You say you get a bit lost for words. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me, or like I'm not here to tell a sad story. I just think it's low.
Yeah.
I just think I said like outside of mistreating children and elderly, like to take advantage of people with disabilities, just it's such a low level. And that's why, like, anyone that follows me, like with my Instagram or Facebook or whatever, I'm pretty outspoken. I'm quite happy to throw a few punches, and people may see that as me being disrespectful or arrogant, but I'm like, come on, man, like, you got to be kidding me. I've had people hit me up and message me and say like, geez, you're a little bit out of line, or, that's, some people have said to me like, karate is about respect. And I'm like, bingo. It is about respect.
It's both ways. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it is about respect. And, respect cuts both ways, and if you treat people, I'm not the type, I'm not a doormat, I'm not a doormat. And, I've done nothing to deserve the treatment that I've received. So I think the thing is too, like, a lot of people, they don't understand that with disability, or even like Paralympics or whatever, people don't understand. People are so just, I can't find the words. It loses me. You have male and female categories. You don't say, okay, Christina Ma, you're the world champion. Well, you think you're good, jump into the men's event. Yeah. And if you really think you're good, we'll put you into the open weight category, back when they used to do that. Yeah. Okay, Christina, you're not so good anymore, are you? You're like, what are you talking about? Like, she fights in the minus 61 female category. Like, Christina Ma's one of my heroes. Like, I love Chris. Like, I think she's just the best. But you have a female category for a reason.
That's right.
And that doesn't mean that the women's event is any more or less. I love what they're doing now with female sport. They're really putting females on a pedestal where they belong. But you have male and female kata. And not only that, Cheyne, you have weight categories. Yeah. You don't, like, even like Douglas Brose, like, you get a guy like Douglas Brose and you chuck him into the heavyweight final, like, they're going to get devoured. Yeah. You don't turn around to Douglas Brose and be like, oh, well, mate, thought you were a good fighter.
Yeah, that's like, right.
He is a good fighter. He weighs 59 kilos, Yeah. And then what they don't understand is, with the disability category, it allows people that are bound to a wheelchair, or they have an intellectual handicap, or they may be completely blind with a guide dog and a cane, or you have people that have vision disabilities like myself, and like you have a vision disability. It allows people to do what they can do within their own category. The hard part is finding the numbers. So it's difficult. Like, it's difficult to find people with, like, when you're blind, okay, cool, you can throw all the blind people in together. But when it gets visually impaired, there's and I understand that, like, it's hard, but the idea behind disability sport is to have something special that they can get together and enjoy and embrace. And also, like, for me, I got so much attention. Like, instead of just, like, I don't think that I was good enough to take James Giuliano's place on the stage. If I would have started earlier and younger and I did all that, I think that I could have been very competitive against James. Would I have been better than him and taken that spot? It's not fair for me to ever say that or think that. James is awesome. And actually, James Giuliano's another person that, like, went a long way out of his way to help me with my kata. James supported me heaps with all the. So James is one of the reasons I actually did quite well in my kata, because James helped me heaps and helped me with training. So, big shout out to him and much respect.
He didn't help you enough if you only got silver to him.
Nah, he probably kept a few things, up his sleeve. but yeah, you know, like, so what it allowed me to, because of my disadvantage, James was doing the WKF Worlds. Sonari's doing Kumite. I'm never gonna fight at the WKF Worlds doing Kumite with my vision. It's not that I'm not good enough. I actually feel like my Kumite is pretty handy, but I'm so far behind with my vision that it's like, again, it's like being a guy that weighs 50 kilos. Like, it's going to be so hard, you know. Not that my Kumite is that great either. I'm not saying that I'm a WKF level fighter or anything like that. I'm saying that the para karate gave me a pathway. It gave me an opportunity to go and do my thing and showcase my abilities, you know. And I just feel like that got really misconstrued and really taken in the wrong kind of light by some people, you know. Yeah, it's just it's. Look,
you've definitely inspired a lot of people, whether they've got a disability or without a disability. You know, I mean, watching that vision, it's spine tingling. So, but
yeah, thanks, mate.
Thank you for listening to Karate Over Coffee. And if you're enjoying the podcast and getting something out of the episodes, there are a few things you can do to help us. If you don't already subscribe to us on YouTube, please do so. We release these episodes every Friday morning, Australian time. Plus, we release some smaller espresso shots during the week on both our YouTube channel and our Facebook community group. You can also subscribe to us on our Apple or Spotify. Leaving a 5-star review will be very beneficial as well. If you have any suggestions or topics or feedback or anything that you want to talk about, please put it in our comment section on our Karate Over Coffee community Facebook group. If you'd like to support us, please visit our online shop where we have official Karate Over Coffee shirts, hoodies and mugs available. Your continued support is appreciated and a vital way for the podcast to keep moving forward. Thanks, guys.